I've dedicated a lot of this year to researching blasphemy, offenses against holy things in our society. So, in that spirit, and considering that it's Christmas after all, I thought we should take a look at what happened when a horror movie decided to show Santa Claus in a less than positive light.
You scared, ain't you? You should be. Christmas Eve is the scariest damn night of the year. I'd be scared too, if I was you.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
Silent Night, Deadly Night is a 1984 horror film directed by Charles Sellier. The movie follows Billy Chapman, a young man traumatized by the memories of what he saw when he was only 5. A criminal dressed up as Santa Claus, murdering his father and sexually assaulting and murdering his mother.
Hey, you little bastard!
Afterwards, growing up in a strict and abusive Catholic orphanage, Billy never learned how to cope with his trauma and is driven to complete insanity once he finds himself having to dress up as Santa Claus for his job.
And just remember, be jolly. Lots of ho, ho, ho. And try not to scare the little bastards.
Let the bloodbath begin. Billy, dressed up as Santa Claus and carrying an axe, goes around town killing a metric ton of people. Several of them topless women, of course, because it's the 80s after all.
There you are, you bad kitty.
Punish!
He eventually makes his way back to the orphanage, where he is finally shot dead by the police.
You're safe now. Santa Claus is gone.
This is not a good movie. I like horror films and I like stupid slashers, but I never found Silent Night, Deadly Night to be any good. But still, it has a dedicated cult following and plenty of people, Quentin Tarantino among them, think it's amazing. Then again, Quentin Tarantino also thinks that feet are the sexiest part of a woman, so maybe we have to take his opinion with a grain of salt. But regardless, they've also made 4 sequels and 1 reboot. I haven't seen all of them, but the general consensus seems to be that they're all garbage.
Garbage Day!
Huh? No!
But in any case, the point of this video is not to talk about whether these are good or bad films. That's for you to decide if you happen to watch them. What I want to talk to you about is what happened around the film. You see, before the movie was released, the producers of Silent Night, Deadly Night ran ads for the film during sitcoms and other general audience shows, which generated complaints against the film.
You've made it through Halloween. Now try and survive Christmas. Silent Night, Deadly Night.
And if things had stopped there, it would have been fine. People are allowed to voice their opinions about the media, and saying, hey, maybe don't run horror ads during a kids show, seems to me like a reasonable thing to call your station over. But that wasn't it. The ads for Silent Night, Deadly Night had hurt the feelings of Americans, many of whom felt that showing an evil Santa Claus was in itself an evil thing to do. How evil? Well, here is how the show At the Movies with Siskel and Ebert, the most famous film critics at the time, referred to the fact that the film had performed well at the box office.
You people have nothing to be proud of, even if you made a few bucks off of all the negative publicity. Your profits truly are blood money.
I'm glad you mentioned those people's names, because quite frequently they think, gee, we'll make this exploitation film, we'll be able to buy our Mercedes and live in Bel Air, and nobody will ever know what we did. But I would like to hear them explain to their children and their grandchildren that it's only a movie.
Yeah.
I think that would be a real interesting explanation.
Obviously, referring to this film's profits as blood money is insane. It's just a movie, a privately funded film funded by investors, not by the trade of blood diamonds or the enslavement of children. Funnily enough, neither of these critics saw it fit to use the term blood money when it came to reviewing films like Top Gun or any of the other propaganda pieces in which the Pentagon was actively involved. The term blood money also didn't appear in Ebert's 2013 review of Zero Dark 30, a movie in which the CIA actively participated. It was crafted to justify torture and somehow forgive the war criminals who committed it, by promoting the lie that torture had helped in tracking down Osama bin Laden. So blood money doesn't seem to come from the people who brought you the destruction of Vietnam and Iraq or who tortured prisoners. It only comes from shitty horror movies. And it's no surprise, of course. It's easier to pretend that real harm comes from some moron dressed up as Santa Claus in a horror film than it is to question the real evils that exist in society. And don't think that this is exclusive to the United States, to capitalism, or to the Christian world. Just look at what has been happening in Pakistan, where Prime Minister Imran Khan presents himself as a defender of Islam and often attacks France for offending Muslims. This because France allows for the publication of Charlie Hebdo. All of this while Imran Khan and his government have actively collaborated with the apprehension, torture, and genocide of the Uyghur Muslim population of China. Again, it's about diverting your attention to things that don't matter.
Just across your border in Western China, the Chinese government has imprisoned more than 1 million Uyghur Muslims in re-education camps. The Chinese government has tortured Muslims, forcibly sterilized them, and they've destroyed mosques in Xinjiang and also punished Muslims for fasting, praying, even giving Muslim names to their children. Prime Minister, why are you so outspoken about Islamophobia in Europe and the United States, but totally silent about the genocide of Muslims in Western China?
What our conversations have been with the Chinese, this is not the case, according to them.
The evidence is just overwhelming.
Whatever issues we have with the Chinese, we speak to them behind closed doors. China has been one of the greatest friends to us in our most difficult times. When we were really struggling, our economy was struggling, China came to our rescue. So we respect the way they are, and whatever issues we have, we speak behind closed doors.
It's undeniable that there is more damage done to Muslims by China than by any caricature of Mohammed. But it is financially more convenient for Pakistan to kiss Xi Jinping's ass and tell people to focus on France. Much more damage has been done to innocent children by US-funded death squads than by any horror film. But it's easier to just pretend that the real culprit of violence around children is a movie. And all of this has a cost. This type of cultural fights suck all of the attention. They ignore the real problems that they supposedly want to solve. And to be clear, this isn't whataboutism. I am not saying that you only have to care about big things and that you should only focus on wars and global warming and the gigantic things that affect the planet. You should care about small things that cause damage and try to fix them. The issue is that the main claim in this case is false. Movies about killer Santas don't destroy the fabric of society, nor, as a school principal was quoted at the time, are they an invasion of children's dreams and fantasies and a form of child abuse. So the media has a history of building up outrage over these issues, ignoring actual problems in favor of non-issues that can lead to better ad revenue. Yes, this precedes the internet and morons with shocked thumbnails. And this outrage machine leads to suppressing speech. In fact, that's what happened with this movie. Even though the film was a financial success and attendance was high, probably in part due to the controversy, it was pulled from theaters soon after it opened. Also, since this was a time in which films were not released everywhere at the same time, the controversy made the producers cancel the entire release of the film on the West Coast. Pearl-clutching morons had claimed that a movie about a killer Santa Claus would traumatize children and that Santa, this unquestionably fictional character, was sacrosanct. And somehow that absolutely idiotic argument worked. Never mind the fact that Silent Night, Deadly Night was not even the first film featuring a killer Santa, or that children would not be admitted into a horror film anyway. These people had decided that if they didn't like the movie, nobody else should watch it. This whole event needs to be understood as part of a moral panic. Violence and sex in media were seen at the time as a growing threat, and horror films, hip-hop, rap, and heavy metal were all among the targets of these campaigns. Not war films, though. Nobody needed to question whether they were a bad influence. Films in which state violence was glorified or where enemy troops were subjected to war crimes, those were fine. And they continue to be fine. But Ice-T wasn't fine, Twisted Sister wasn't fine, Frank Zappa wasn't fine, and yes, Silent Night, Deadly Night wasn't fine. For all of its initial infamy, the film has become a cult classic, and you can even find toys of axe-wielding Billy Chapman in his Santa Claus suit. A remake is supposedly in the making, but I didn't find any concrete information about who might be involved. 40 years after the original was made, it's hard to imagine that anybody's going to picket a theater over this movie, though I could imagine a couple of plot points that could get them a protest or two. Moral panics never really go away. They just change. Before I leave, if you want a couple of actually good films to watch this holiday season, here are my recommendations. For horror, better watch Out. It's a great psychological horror and it's really good. Don't Google the plot though, because you'll ruin it for yourself. Just trust me on this. For comedy, Santa's Slay, a really stupid and violent movie in which wrestler Bill Goldberg plays a very aggressive Santa Claus. It's just funny, just don't expect it to make sense. And for watching with your family, A Christmas Story. It's a classic, though I have to be honest, the first time I saw it was last year. I thought it was lovely, and it's such an innocent film that it's just heartwarming. So just do yourself a favor and check it out. Regardless of who you are, where you are, and whether you agree with me or not on the broader points that I make, thank you so much for giving me your time and your attention. It's a really humbling experience to see that you find value in what I create, and I hope that you'll continue coming back. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Non Serviam.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!